we are on Wadjuk country. Armidale isn't out of metro, so there's a lot of transient foot traffic. Historically, a lot of our people and our ancestors walked through this space.
There are so many awesome things to do in the outdoors right here in the city of Armidale. You've got hiking, mountain biking, trail running. You can go to Champion Lakes and explore some beautiful waterways there and do some rowing or kayaking.
There's plenty of parks that the kids love to go to. Yeah, you forget that you're so close to the city because you're in your own mini world.
We've got this place here, obviously, the Reptile Centre. Interaction is just something you don't get at home normally.
There's so many little cafes and restaurants and bigger venues, cider houses, mini breweries, and where else, can you get this beautiful scenery and, most importantly, good food.
Armidale has it all. You'll see some of the old structures, some of the old houses that were there from the very, very early days.
Everywhere you look, you see art or something beautiful.
To escape the hustle and bustle of the city, the Armidale Hills, it's a beautiful place to relax.
I'm incredibly proud to be a female in the mining industry, led by a great role model for mining, for the Australian economy.
This is the best mining company to work for.
Everyone kind of takes you under their wing.
Being an older person in mining as well, I find that people can come to me for advice.
I did hairdressing for a year before coming to mining. It's the best thing I've ever done.
It offers a level of financial security that women outside of the industry don't necessarily have, and it's just awesome.
We would like women to be safer here than they are anywhere else.
Every day is exciting, there's something happening.
And just get out there, try something new.
This is the engine room of our Australian economy, and we get to be a part of what keeps this country afloat and helps with infrastructure and all the other projects that makes Australia such a fantastic country to live in.
To join us in building an exceptional future, go to buildinganexceptionalfuture.com.au.
Ladies and gentlemen, we're joined in the commentary box by the CEO of Rowing Western Australia, Daniel Tackenberg. Welcome, Dan.
Thank you, Razor. Nice to be here.
Nice to see you, mate, and obviously working hard.
Oh, trying to look like I'm working hard. No, it's been a busy week, but it's going very well.
So the culmination of a year's planning and, 7 days. People think there's 7 days of work, but there's 365 days plus of work, and it just culminates with this last 7 days, doesn't it?
Yeah, I think we learned that the event was coming here in about 2019, so there's been some degree of planning happening since then, but certainly the last 12 months is when it's really stepped up a gear.
Yep.
Lots of meetings, site visits, lots of planning and working with the local stakeholders.
I first came here in 2012 for the National Championship then, and then in 2019 for the Masters. It's certainly matured as a course over that time.
Yeah, it has. Look, I started in about 2014. I've heard all the stories about 2012. Certainly not mirroring that this week, which is a good thing and a not so good thing, depending on how you look at it. But no, the venue has grown. Around 2012 was when Venues West took over managing the facility as well. Venues West managed Optus Stadium, Perth Arena, a lot of our major sporting facilities around the state. So they've certainly taken hold of it and done a lot with the venue, as has Rowing WA. We've built a few extra facilities around as well, and we work very well together.
Yeah, so as you know, I'm from Queensland and knew you in the old days when you worked at University Sport, and certainly in Queensland the same thing happens up there with what began as the Major Sports Facilities Authority, which is now Stadiums Queensland. So where were you, like in the old days, knew you at University Sport, where did you go between there and coming here to Western Australian Rowing?
Well, I took my Unisport job down to Melbourne for a couple of years, and then met my wife down there, and she had family over here, so that's what brought us to Western Australia. I did a small stint with about a year with Department of Sport and Rec over here, just to really meet some people in the industry. Then worked at Swimming WA for a couple of years, and came into rowing.
Yeah, so what does hosting this mean, other than the hard work? What does hosting this championships mean for rowing in Western Australia, and also for rowing Western Australia? Not just rowing in Western Australia, but for rowing Western Australia.
Look, I think to start with, for rowing in Western Australia, I think it's the opportunity that it provides, and on a whole range of levels. More than anything, the opportunity to be involved to row in an event like this. So last year in the Gambie, although it was impacted by COVID because our borders had just reopened, we had about 45 West Australians that rowed in the Gambie. We have 432 rowing this year.
I knew there was over 400, so that's an outstanding number.
Yeah, so roughly 10 times. We had every school rowing program rowing this week, and the majority of our clubs rowing as well. So, and with some really good numbers. So we're really proud of our clubs and our schools that have got involved, and we're glad they've taken this opportunity, and we really hope that then sees them now exposed to this event and wanting to continue to participate as it moves back east over the next few years.
Nicely that you said back east, not over east. I actually said today that I'm concerned. This is the biggest nationals that I can recall. Numerically, apparently it is the biggest. So if we get this plus those who weren't prepared to come west next year in the eastern states, we'll have to add an extra day or two.
God. Well, you can't row much later into the night time.
There were a lot of comments last night.
Floodlight the whole course.
Yeah, there were a lot of comments last night on my Instagram post about how dark it was, that's for sure.
Actually, I'm going to take this opportunity, Razor. I said to Alice and Fred the other day that I think the 500 metre sprints should be done under lights, with all the cars along the bank with their
lights on,
high beam on for the 500 metres, and you run it all at night time. I reckon it'd be brilliant.
I reckon it would be brilliant. But let's take baby steps, I think, Dan. But the next time we come here, we can do that. You can get that instigated.
I will. But look, for Rowing WA, again, it's opportunity for our staff to be a part of this event. So all our staff are involved, and also our wider Rowing WA sort of network of volunteers and clubs. Like all the volunteers that are here, they're all from the rowing community.
The upskilling of volunteers, because you can have the biggest home regatta you have, and then an Australian Championships is 10 times bigger.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah, absolutely. Look, our biggest regatta is a 2-day regatta.
Yeah.
It pales in comparison to something
nearly
like this,
2,000 athletes entered for this regatta.
Yeah, amazing.
Now, Dan, I did say to you a couple of days ago about the Row Union initiative, and I think you're doing beautifully with the revenue raising there. I'm led to believe that they've run out of wine today.
No, look, not wine. Wine. We have been doing some very regular top-ups to Dan Murphy's. We now have an account at Dan Murphy's Kelmscott.
Can we get there soon so we can get a sponsorship through Dan's?
Well, I think so. No, look, we have had some really good support from Gage Rhodes and also from Murray McHenry, who's a long-time supporter of rowing and rower.
Yep.
And he's provided a lot of his West Australian wines at a great rate to us. So we do thank those guys, but it is good to see the balcony full down there. and I can only encourage everyone to get down there and enjoy the fun times down there.
Actually, Gage Road's Ross Brown, who was on a number of Australian rowing teams that I managed, was a brewer at Gage.
Yeah, still the head, still involved. Yeah, he was the head brewer there. I think his title's now changed, now like a production manager or something, but certainly still involved. And he was certainly the conduit that we used.
Yeah, he's a good man, Brownie.
Build the partnership. He is a great man.
So, Dan, thanks for your time. We're going to start racing again. We've had a few hours off, but there's a few races to go to the end of the day. We wish you well for the rest of the regatta. Congratulations on the job that you and Sarah and the rest of the staff have done, and the recruitment of all of the volunteers, and let's get on with the job, and maybe you can win a couple of races on Sunday afternoon.
I think so. I think there's going to be a few beers that get laid down on those races for sure. But
all right, all the best.
Crossed.
Thanks,
Razor.
Dan Tackenberg. Thanks, all the best. We were just talking about it getting dark. It's a bit dark down there at the moment, actually. So we can see just about all bar one of the 8 are in the starters' hands for the under-19 women's Cox State semi-final number 1.
Yes, we've seen plenty of comments on the Rowing Australia Facebook from eager parents wanting to watch the under-19 events, wondering if the live stream would be back up and running before racing, and don't know if you'd really want to see us be talking for the last 4 hours, but as much as some of us would have loved to be talking for 4 hours, but we are back here for the last hour and a half or so of racing here at Champion Lakes.
Well, let's hope we get another 5 or 10,000 viewers on the live streaming. We had 100,929 at 7:30 last night, about on my third Coopers, working with the BMA boys, and I'll try the Gage Roads tonight. So thank you to Gage Roads for their support. As you can see them there, Chris there, lining up very nicely indeed. The wind is nowhere near as bad at the start line, is it?
Nowhere near as bad, but I was just standing up on the roof of the commentary tower a minute ago, and it is definitely still windy. I have no doubts about that. There is still wind here, but
the start is nowhere near affected. As we see, lane 2, Wendouree Ballarat Composite, lane 3, Caulfield Grammar, lane 4, Geelong Grammar, lane 4, Seymour College Adelaide University Composite, lane 5, lane 6, University of Queensland Buckingham, St Patrick's College Townsville and Canned. Again, Telstra is the winner, and St Catherine's School of Victoria is in lane 7. And the aligner earlier today contacted the referee and said the caravan just moved backwards. So it's much stiller up there now as they get underway, Chris.
And they are underway, so that's St Catherine's School in lane 7. We saw them absolutely dominate the heat way back on Wednesday evening. It does seem like an age ago at this point. They had a pretty comfortable all the way in with that signature aggressive style. That's the combination of Freya Cantwell, Zara Peel, Scarlett Shelton, Zoe Hall, Lucy Green, Chloe Nevins, Sienna Darcy, Jemima Wilcox, their Cox, Scarlett Pringle. That crew coached by John Saunders and Bridget Carlisle. They would be the short-priced favourites for this event, I would believe.
Yes, and it's a licorice all sorts beside them. Lillian Slatter of Cairn, Molly Salisbury of Cairn, Sarah Berg of St Pat's Townsville, Lily Bragg of St Pat's Townsville, Georgia Montague of University of Queensland Boat Club, Hannah Riches of Buckingham in Tasmania, Isabel Allen and Manea Bishop of University of Queensland Boat Club, and the coxswain Bo Palmer, and the coaches Harrison Parks, Mitch Salisbury and Phil Bourguignon.
I think we'll just refer to them as the Queensland Composite from here on in.
And the Victorians, they're not Victorians either, because it's Wendouree Ballarat, Loretto, Marriotteville, Norwood International High School and Adelaide University over in Station 2. So it's great to see Caulfield Grammar, a straight crew, Geelong Grammar, a straight crew, St Catherine's School, a straight crew, but there are 3 composite crews in lanes 2, 5 and 6. Seymour College, Adelaide University, a South Australian composite. And we see Victoria Binns has been withdrawn there. I'm not surprised. She's done a number of laps over the first 4 days of this regatta.
Possibly maybe some conflicting racing coming up with this change in schedule.
Look at the margins, Chris.
That's absolutely neck and neck there at that first 500 metres. So the opportunity afforded to us by some slightly calmer conditions. St Catherine's School out in the lead. It was about a third of a boat length the lead there, 0.87 of a second ahead of the Seymour Adelaide University composite in lane 5, who were just trailing in second, but only narrowly ahead of the, I believe it was the Geelong Grammar combination, sitting back in third at that timing point.
And the Licorice All Sorts crew there, clearly you can see the Buck singlet in the middle, the 2 Cairns sweepers in 2 and 3, and in the stern, the 3 University of Queensland Boat Club sweepers there. And the Seymour College crew, it's just the Deanna Macalino from Adelaide University in the middle of that boat. Then across to Geelong Grammar, in those blue colours. So Geelong Grammar and the Geelong College, of course, down there on the Corio River. And that's starting to get a little close up at the front there between St Catherine's School and the University of Queensland composite crew. Across to Wendouree Ballarat, Emily Long of Loreto Marriotteville, Emma Newhouse Adelaide Uni, Angelica Chia of Norwood International, Fern Rosenbauer of Loreto Marriotteville, Emma Gowans of Wendouree Ballarat, Tess Squire of Wendouree Ballarat. Then follows Daisy Simpson Kerr of Wendouree Ballarat, Charlie Gartland of Wendouree Ballarat, and Lily Connolly, coached by Brad Putel, Paul Blanchfields and Dario Sportelli. So it's Catherine School and University of Queensland composite, just 0.87 of a second between them. So the Seymour crew that was up there in the early stages has dropped back into third place now, and St Catherine's in lane 7 leads the University of Queensland composite crew in lane 6, albeit narrowly.
Yeah, so top 3 crews will progress through to the semi-final tomorrow. We'll progress through to the final tomorrow. This is, of course, the semi-final, and that at this stage does appear to be the St Catherine's School crew that is leading that charge to qualify through to the final.
Yes, they certainly have a strong position. They in lane 6 and University of Queensland in University of Queensland in 6 and Catherine's in lane 7. And then, unsurprisingly, it's down the page, or up the page, I should say, Seymour College comp, Geelong, Caulfield and Wendouree Ballarat comp. Wendouree Ballarat comp, the only crew that's really off the pace. A number of the crews could finish in third place. But it's pretty close between these first 2, St Catherine's and the composite crew from University of Queensland Boat Club predominantly. There's 3 from that club, 2 from Cairns, 2 from St Pat's Townsville and 1 from the Buckingham Club in Hobart. And it is the University of Queensland composite crew that's gone to the lead by 1.33. I had a feeling that they'd hit the front there, Chris.
Yeah, decisive move in the championship quarter to hit the front there, and they'll be giving them a lot of confidence going into tomorrow's final if they can hang on to that. That's St Catherine's School looking extremely dominant in the earlier rounds of racing. The Seymour Adelaide Uni crew dropping back 5 seconds back into third place. They in turn lead 5 seconds over Geelong Grammar, Caulfield Grammar in 5th place. At the moment, our qualifiers standing as the Queenslanders in the lead, St Catherine's in 2nd, and the largely South Australian, the entirely South Australian composite crew from Seymour College and Adelaide University sitting in 3rd, and a little bit of a margin then back to 4th, so we'd be unlikely to see a challenger to break into those qualifying positions as the crews approach the last 350 metres of the course now. And
you'd think that that school crew that's been rowing together all year would have a better combination, and their blade works would, although they're just flopping it around a bit there on the bow side, aren't they, at the moment?
Possibly, but a lot of these Queenslanders will possibly be
starting to get a bit worried, I think.
Yes, and as the St Catherine's crew really lift their rate of striking, they've got a distinctive aggressive style. They really yank on things into the second half of the stroke, and they're trying to come back. And they are. It is to get that more advantageous lane. The fastest qualifying crew in this race will be in either lane 6 or lane 7 in the final. It's a big difference to go back into lanes 4 or 5. St Catherine's are charging back.
They're coming back, and they'll get there. St Catherine's will get across first.
It was only about 2 foot in that, less than that, a bit over a bow number, the margin back to the Queenslanders there.
Enough to swear by, and that's all.
We just didn't see that one coming, to be honest. It's always impressive when you get a change in speed in the 8 and a good response like that. They did have it out to about half a boat length at one stage.
Superior combination, I think, there, and they were able to call on that whole season of combination as opposed to, as I call them, the licorice all sorts, just getting together there. And
smorgasbord.
Yeah.
Queensland.
Yes, a smorgasbord, that's right. So, a great race between those two 8s. 7:09.74. 7:09.74.
We'll wait for some confirmation.
And I think it was Seymour Adelaide Uni were certainly third.
Quite a way ahead of the Geelong Grammar crew. It looks like maybe a double press of the button there. And Caulfield Grammar, it was a Geelong Grammar, Caulfield Grammar, and the Wendouree Ballarat Composite, unfortunately eliminated from the event. But those top 3 crews, St Catherine's, University of Queensland, and the Seymour Adelaide Uni crew through to tomorrow's A final, or only final in this event.
So semi-final number 2 is going into the start pontoon, as you were. Semi-final number 2 is well down the course. In lane 2, Furbank Grammar School. Lane 3, Loretto Ballarat. Lane 4, St Catherine's School from New South Wales, who are leading. Lane 5, Wilderness School. Lane 6, Friends. And lane 7 is Sydney University Queenwood School Composite. And it is St Catherine's from New South Wales who lead narrowly from Sydney University Queenwood Composite. Then follows Wilderness School, Friends, Furbank Grammar and Loretto Ballarat.
So the St Catherine's School crew were the Head of the River champions just 2 weeks ago at the Sydney International Regatta Centre. And it was a bit of a surprise to see them making their way to the semi-final via the repechage, I believe. And it looks like a little bit of a turn in form here in the semi-final. Possibly a few minor changes or things to improve on, and some improvements in race strategy, and they are leading as they approach the 1,000-metre mark, but only narrowly from that Sydney University and Queenwood Composite in the favoured lane 7.
And the Wilderness School from South Australia are in 3rd place. They were 2nd in the Head of the River. Seymour College won that, and Wilderness holding down 2nd place, 3rd place. They're coached by John Trovis, Eleanor Trovis and Josh Dunstan.
We'll see that Sydney University crew come into view in a moment, but a great shot there of us.
Oh, that's close.
Leading, but only narrowly. That Sydney University crew, a good few lanes over. They'll be just really out of eye shot of most of those girls from St Catherine's. As they move out to about half a boat length lead, 1.72 seconds the margin there between St Catherine's School, Sydney Uni and Queenwood in 2nd, Wilderness School in 3rd, Friends 4 seconds away from a qualifying position in 4th place, Furbank Grammar back in 5th, and Loretto Ballarat rounding out in 6th place in this 2nd semi-final of the under-19 Women's Coxed 8. Good close-up there of the girls from Furbank Grammar. Distance there to cover between them and St Catherine's in the background, who really are looking like a Head of the River winning crew there out the head of the field.
I was just being written a note, but I corrected myself. The Barwon River in Geelong, of course. And plenty of advertising for Croker Oars there in this crew. See the pink sleeves of Croker Oars.
Also common in schools rowing, slightly more forgiving nature.
The predominant tool used in school rowing, Croker Oars for sure. appear to be favoured by the St Catherine School. Yeah, so St Catherine's and the Sydney Uni Queenwood comp crew going stroke for stroke, and certainly the Wilderness School of South Australia are holding down that third place, which will get them into the A final. Fourth is the Friends School, Friends coached by Max McQueenie and Anthony Edwards. But still these two crews, Chris, hammer and tong they go.
Absolutely, they've been inseparable the entire way down the course. It looks like the Sydney Uni Queenwood crew may have just pegged back a little bit of ground. It's the margin
0.64. Yeah,
that is tight. It's showing up as significantly tighter on the live timing. It was about a canvas between those two. The Wilderness School 2.88 seconds back, pretty much a neat length into third, and Friends still 5 seconds back, so that margin unchanging. So Wilderness School getting the better of the battle for that last qualifying spot towards tomorrow's final. St Catherine School have been leading the entire way, but it does look like the Sydney Uni Queenwood crew on the grandstand side of the course do have the momentum in this second half of the race, and did mention this morning there's probably a little bit more favour in the second half of the race for those nearer lanes, and they'll be looking to leverage that as much as possible as they storm home towards the finish. I think St Catherine's have possibly seen the challenge and do look to be responding. They're not letting them get away just yet. And like we saw in the previous race, these girls will know that it's possibly a 3 or 4 lane difference in where they qualify for the final.
Absolutely.
For the final.
Yep.
Which can be determined by the narrowest of margins. So they'll be looking to hang on to that as much as possible.
So these two crews have been stroke for stroke most of the way down the course, and the Wilderness School are doing a really good job in third place. Girl in the bow seat rowing really well in the Wilderness crew. Catches are very sharp, and she's down close, in quick.
Like a good bow seat should. Not upsetting anything, but it is becoming really
close.
Like Sydney Uni and Queenwood may just have their bow balls in front in the under-19 Women's Cox State semi-final. They're racing for lanes in the A final. It'll be the Sydney Uni Queenwood crew who will get there by a canvas over St Catherine School from New South Wales. Now, overturning that result from the 1500 metre mark. Good row from behind for Sydney Uni to get the win. Wilderness School will cross the line in third for our last qualifying position.
And the winning time, 7 minutes 10.46, is less than a second slower than the previous one. So we've got 4 crews covered by about a second, or a second and a half. So let's look forward to that one, shall we?
That is one to watch for tomorrow for certain. So Sydney Uni Queenwood, St Catherine School and Wilderness School will qualify in that order for the A final. Friends, Furbank Grammar and Loreto Ballarat be eliminated from the under-19 Women's Cox State.
And the under-19 Men's Cox State semi-final 1 is underway in lane 2, Ballarat Grammar Composite. Lane 3, the Friends School. Lane 4, Canberra Grammar, Lake Macquarie, St Augustine's College. Lane 5, St Peter's College. Lane 6, St Peter's College, West Australian Rowing Club, Swan River. And Lane 7, St Augustine's and Wesley College Composite from Western Australia. With the St Augustine's Wesley crew in Lane 7 holding the lead.
We've seen already a great regatta from these 4 boys from St Augustine's. Tane Potts, Oscar St Pierre, Joe Lynch and Dougal McKenzie taking out the under-19 men's Coxed 4 earlier this morning. That crew, they were coxed by Ryder Taylor. This crew looks like they were coxed by the Wesley Coxon. So the Wesley crew, the Wesley composite of that crew, component rather of that crew, Nicholas Bryant, Lachlan Idle, Charlie Johnston and Amos Kirk, and only assuming they're coxed, Josh Featherkrantz, joining the St Augustine's crew to pair up to a fairly formidable weight. They had a good margin at the 1,000 metre mark, and looks to be doing it reasonably easily in this first semi-final of the under-19 men's Cox 8.
The defending champions, Brisbane Boys College, not in the event, but the 2022 champions, that is. And that would be about 4 seconds still, Chris.
Over a boat length to the St Peter's and West Australian Rowing Club and Swan River Rowing Club composite in lane 6 next to them. They in turn have about 6 seconds up on the all St Peter's College crew, which they're being coached by Nathan Bowden, which would indicate that is their second 8
My understanding is that the 4 boys in the composite crew are from the first 8, and the other 4 boys from the first 8 are in the crew in lane 5 with 4 boys from the second 8. So Nathan coaching that crew, James McRae co-coaching the crew that's in second place, but both boats looking to go through to the final and look as though they will comfortably, but no match for the St Augustine's College, Wesley College combination. Good race for 4th, however.
Good race unfolding for 4th. That's between the Canberra Grammar composite with Lake Macquarie and St Augustine's, who are just holding off by about a third of a boat length. The Ballarat Grammar composite with St Patrick's College. There's a good amount of geography between those boys.
Yep.
And
the Friends School in Station 3.
That little battle, largely elementary, as those crews look to be firmly out of the qualifying spots for tomorrow's A final, as we see the St Augustine's and Wesley College composite looking very neat and tidy indeed, as they stroke their crew on this stroke to a win in the first semi-final of the under-19 men's Cox Day. Length and a half clear of the St Peters, West Australian and Swan River Rowing Club composite crew in second place. And the all St Peters crew, half second 8, half first 8 in third place. And a good battle unfolding for the placings straight across the field. The St Augustine's composite in 4th place. Friends in 5th and Ballarat Grammar in 6th place. Just about a bow number in between each of those crews. So good to see them all pushing forward to the line and getting the most out of what will be their last race in this event for the regatta.
And it was actually the reverse lane order, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2. And 6:21.3. So the time not bad. Those conditions may be better than they look. And the next semi-final, Brighton Grammar has been withdrawn from Station 2. St Joseph's from Sydney in lane 3, Caulfield Grammar in 4, University of Queensland Composite in 5, the Shaw School in 6, and Geelong Grammar in lane 7 has also been withdrawn.
So it was top 3 through. There was 6 crews set to race, and there is only 4 crews racing here this afternoon. So it is do or die. Only 1 crew from this race set to miss out on an A final spot, and it does look to be at the 1,000 metre mark, possibly the St Joseph's College crew. That St Joseph's College crew, I am led to believe maybe
the Will Raven coach crew, Michael Lane and Tom Morgan.
Under the impression it may have been their year 10s, but I'm seeing they're rowing in the Zooties that they're given at the GPS head of the river for pitting the GPS crew, so I may be wrong there. Maybe a little bit more research needed from myself. But the race was led by the crew from the Shaw School, Lawson Banks, Oscar Mulbauer, Tom Galligan, Thomas Waite, Remy Cameron, Corey Sloan, Will Clubb, Hugo Patrick, Mackenzie Fox, their coxswain, that crew coached by David Jennings. And that was the crew that was leading at this stage.
And the composite crew from Queensland, George Milson, Tom Houlihan, Rory Sampson and Mac Chandler from the Southport School, Jack Mitchell from St Joseph's College, Nudgee and Benjamin Shuttlewood from Southport, Finlay Harris from University of Queensland Boat Club and Bailey Clark from University of Queensland. Samuel Sweetland is the coxswain of that crew. Very little to choose between second and third. So no doubt that Shaw are leading, the David Jennings coach crew. Lawson Banks, Oscar Mulbauer, Tom Galligan, Thomas Waite, Remy Cameron, Corey Sloan, Will Clubb, Hugo Patrick, Mackenzie Fox is the coxswain. As I said, David Jennings is the coach. University of Queensland in second place, Caulfield Grammar in third and St Joseph's from Sydney in 4th place. So just the 1 crew to miss out, and at the moment it looks like it could be the crew from St Joseph's College, Sydney.
They're not letting it go quite just yet though. They're in pretty evenly with the crew from Caulfield Grammar there. They'll know the consequences of their placing at the moment and will be eager to improve on that in the last 500 metres of the race, which is the Shaw School still leading out in front. Noting that's Remy Cameron in the centre of the crew. A bit of pedigree in that his dad was David Cameron.
Oh, really? Won the President's Cup in 1996.
Mother Zali Steggles.
Really? He is very well bred for a sport then, isn't he?
Exactly. So drawing on those strong genes at the leading the race here for the Shaw School. As they lead from about half a boat length ahead of the University of Queensland Southport and St Joseph's Nudgee College in lane number 5. About half a boat length clear of that crew, but a good battle unfolding for that final qualifying position. Caulfield Grammar and St Joseph's are going bow ball to bow ball on the far side of the course. It'll definitely be the Shaw School who come across in first place. The Southport Nudgee and UQ composite for second, but it is anyone's guess who's going to come across in that final qualifying position. It is Caulfield Grammar who have led throughout the race, and it'll be Caulfield Grammar by just a canvas ahead of St Joseph's College from New South Wales, who finish in 4th and unfortunately just outside of that last qualifying position for tomorrow's A final.
Something you don't often see. That composite Queensland crew had a tandem rig there, so they must have done a bit of work to determine that they needed to have a tandem rig.
Possibly. Not too much distance between them. We're not. It's not a Telstra crew. So,
no, not exactly, but 4 and 5 in a tandem rig there. Interesting. So Shaw first, University of Queensland Composite second, Caulfield Grammar third, St Joseph's College in 4th place. No time available there. Under 23 lightweight men's Coxless 4 final. So just 2 crews means there will only be a gold medal presented.
1 medal. When there's less crews than medals available, or then we only produce medals for not for last, essentially.
No, that's right. So yes, it's a tandem rig there and bow side stroked. So interesting rigging setup for that University of Queensland composite crew. As I say, must have had a couple of training rows to determine that's the way they needed to be rigged. Mercantile composite, Jordan Roberts, Jack Henderson, Damien Schroeder and Benjamin Whitney in lane 6, and in lane 7 Fremantle, University of Western Australia, Swan River, Adelaide, Joshua Lascock, Digby Marshall, Jacob Sangster and Jacob Cassie. And away they go in the lightweight men's Coxless 4, under 23s. And the safety boat falling in behind now. They got the Fremantle crew's got away well, the Fremantle composite crew. Nearest to our camera, and would have a very narrow lead over the Mercantile composite crew in the early stages.
So we could be set for some pretty tight racing here. 2 lightweight crews, both in as the preference when we do have less crews, that we do shuffle them towards this side of the course so that we can get the most even and fair racing between those crews. And a couple of lightweight crews, these boys probably fortunate enough to have weighed in before racing was delayed.
Yes.
As such, have had a few more hours to possibly refuel if any of them had to cut weight or take weight for each other. So good to see some fruits of that unfolding. It does look like the crew in lane 6, largely Victorian crew, the only exception to that, Jack Henderson from UTS. So the Mercantile composite supported by the Victorian Institute of Sport, who have gotten away best of the 2 crews in this 23 lightweight Coxless 4. Good to be leading by just about a boat length as we approach that first timing point of the 500-metre hut.
Yep. So across states, UTS, University of Technology Sydney, rowing with 2 Mercantile rowers and 1 from Melbourne University Boat Club. The crew's coached by Al Matthews, Elliot Shackcloth, Bertinetti. And Fremantle composite, no coach listed, unfortunately. They're humming along this leading boat. Let's call it the Victorian composite crew. Getting a good look back at the houses in the background there, Chris.
Absolutely. Possibly the boys just doing a little bit of shopping.
Yep. And there will be a medal presentation after this race.
have medals hopefully presented by Brian Weir,
Rowing Australia board member.
So of this Victorian composite crew, we do often see in the lightweight fours events at Nationals a bit of a preview of the Penrith Cup. Probably not enough depth in this field to get an accurate read on the competition, but the two mercantile athletes that are bookending the Victorian composite currently in the lead in bow and stroke, Jordan Roberts and Ben Whitney. Those two athletes will appear in the Penrith Cup to contest the interstate lightweight men's four come Sunday afternoon, the rapidly approaching interstate regatta.
And as usual, rowing nicely. Lightweight fours rowing is a lovely boat to watch. 3 minutes 24.8, and they are hosing it in front of the other crew. And rowing beautifully indeed. So neither of these crews are Penrith Cup crews, but members of them will be. I'm just trying. The Victorians have an under-19 athlete in it from Corio Bay, I understand.
I've lost my page. If I hadn't lost my page, I would tell you that. I've just thumbed through every state team that will be competing.
As a 4-minute mark is left behind by our leading crew for Mercantile, Melbourne University, UTS Haberfield. Have you found what you were looking for, Chris?
I have found what I was looking for. So I was just checking up on the currently second place crew, the Fremantle Composite. So Joshua Lasek of Adelaide is the reserve member of the South Australian Penrith Cup. He'll reserve and provide support for Oscar McGuinness, Mitchell Moore, Charlie Moore and Kyle Miller as they contest that race.
And the Victorian crew?
The Victorian crew was Jordan Roberts and Benjamin Whitney of Mercantile are both in that crew, as well as we'll also see in that crew.
Official result of the previous, the Shaw School First University of Queensland Composite, Caulfield Grammar and St Joseph's. The winning time 6:33.44 and the margin 2.35 seconds.
Those two Mercantile athletes will be joined by Tom Hastings and Charles Rardon of the Barwon and Corio Bay clubs, respectively. That crew will be coached by Alistair Matthews, who is one of the listed coaches of this Victorian crew currently leading the race.
Yeah, Charles Rardon is the under-19 sculler who's in that lightweight four from Corio Bay. Yes.
So I do think that the Penrith Cup will possibly be one of the more interesting matchups of the regatta. I did think it would be a bit of a whitewasher initially, but yeah, I do think the Penrith Cup might be one of the most interesting matchups of the interstate regatta. I do also think, I was just discussing with James Waldesy earlier, that I think the Penrith Cup probably have the highest average age of any event.
Yeah, well, Dion's helping with that at 42 years of age.
And then
Jason
Waddell in the New South Wales crew. He's about the same age as James Waldesy.
So the Mercantile Composite crew will go across the line first. Jordan Roberts, Jack Henderson, Damien Schroeder, Benjamin Whitney. They'll win the under-23 lightweight men's Cox's 4. Championship of Australia from Fremantle Composite, Joshua Lassock, Digby Marshall, Jacob Sangster and Jacob Cassie. $657.95. $657.95. And a handsome win indeed. The Open Lightweight Women's Double Scull Final. will be in the starters' hands, if not underway. And in lane 1 will be ANA from Western Australia, Renee Bravelli and Nadia Gardner. Team Hong Kong are in station 2, Xiong Yi Wong and Wing Yan Win Hung. Sydney Composite in lane 3, Georgia Miansaro and Grace Cypher. Lane 4, Sydney University Banks, Antoinette De Cosmo and Annalise Isaacs. Lane 5, ANU Corio Bay, Maggie Foley and Alexandra Moylan. In lane 6 is Western Australian Rowing Club, Susanna Gravestock and Ruth Morris. And in lane 7 is ANU Hewen Eve Muir from Hewen and Sophie Gerapatritis from ANU. Coached by John Dreesen and Nigel Harding. And I'm led to believe this may well be Eve Muir's last Australian Rowing Championships regatta. Her family have a very successful restaurant and seafood business in Tasmania, and it takes the whole family to run it. And Will and Jock, her siblings, who both rowed at high levels, are already working in the industry with Mum and Dad, Judy and Will, and I understand that Eve may well be going to join into the family business when rowing is completed. But it's ANU Hewen that leads. It's Eve Muir and Sophie Gerapatritis from ANU. Where was she originally? Nepean?
UTS Haberfield.
UTS, was she?
Yep. Her and James Waldersey were both originally UTS Haberfield, and shortly before they got married, I believe, or before the first or second postponement of the wedding due to COVID, Sophie moved down there due to work and is now rowing for the Australian National University, but still will be representing New South Wales
in the lightweight
Sunday.
Yep, lightweight quad.
That'll be a cracker of a quad, I think, that New South Wales quad. So she's paired up with Eve Muir from Hewen today and making the most of it. So Eve Muir she's got a job to do before we go back to the family business, and doing a good job of it. So it was less than a second, though, the lead over the crew in the centre of the course, or in lane 3 rather, Georgia Miansaro of Sydney University Boat Club and Grace Cypher of Sydney Rowing Club. Georgia winning the single scull yesterday, and Grace Cypher just missing out on the medals in that event.
But already selected for Australia in the under-23 lightweight single to go to the World Championships in Bulgaria.
For the second year in a row.
Yes, I saw her race that event at Lake Varese last year. So it's Eve Muir and Sophie Gerapatritis leading narrowly from Georgia Miansaro and Grace Cypher.
Almost opposite ends of the course, which in some slower conditions, and especially when it's such a tight battle, it is sometimes very hard to see your competitors from that far away.
Oh, and I think the composite crew from New South Wales has hit the lead. They have 357.23, and they're 0.95 in front of the ANU Hewen crew, and a whopping 9.62 back to Western Australian Rowing Club, Susanna Gravestock and Ruth Morris. Then follows ANU Corio Bay, Team Hong Kong, Sydney University Banks and ANA in Station 1.
Yeah, so just upsetting, or just reversing that finishing order in the first two in the second 500 metre. Georgia Miansaro and Grace Cypher, they've been racing against each other really competitively all throughout the season. They're normally pretty tightly matched, or they have been at all the New South Wales regattas thus far, and joining together in the double scull here today and doing a pretty good job of it.
Certainly are. And of course, Georgia gave rowing away for a while and went cycling, and has come back and making a very good fist of it, that's for sure. She's very impressive in winning the single.
Yeah, it was very impressive winning the single. So she rowed up until silver medal at the Worlds in 2014 in Amsterdam in the quad.
Yep.
And then after that Olympiad, took a little bit of time off and came back a little bit, but mostly focusing on cycling for Sydney University. And cycling at a pretty high level, I believe, but there might have been a few stories of some accidents or something of that rather. But anyway, coming back to rowing, and enjoying some pretty good success. A really good comeback. It's always great when we see someone make a comeback and do it really well.
Yes.
Come back and fought with injury.
She always had a few injuries, so she's free of injury now and racing extremely well and has got her bow in front. Looking to win a second Australian Rowing Championship in 2 days and have opened up a lead of over 2 lengths now. As we see a trailer being loaded on the side of the road over there.
Yeah, so small boats finishing up and the medium boats finishing up today as well. So opportunity to vacate some of the space in this very crowded boat park. Maybe get a bit of a jump start on the procession across the Nullarbor home for some of the East Coast crews.
Well, between the trailers for the rowing regatta and the trailers from the Surf Lifesaving Championships, be no room for road trains, I think. Yeah. Certainly the people at the border will be wondering what's been going on. But it is a very fine sculling performance from lane 3. Georgia Miansaro and Grace Cypher of Sydney University Boat Club Enswith and Sydney Rowing Club Enswith, coached by Tommy Lorridge and Lachlan Carter. They're leading from Eve Muir of Huon, Tasmanian Institute of Sport, and Sophie Gerapetritis of ANU, coached by John Bundy Dreesing and Nigel Harding. They're clearly in the silver medal position. And then across, I would think it's still the Western Australian Rowing Club crew, Susanna Gravestock and Ruth Morris, coached by Stefano Peloso, in the bronze medal position. And then follows ANU Composite.
So the crew on the screen there, Eve Muir and Sophie Gerapetritis of Huon and the Australian National University, had a great start, moving out to a bit of a lead in the first 500, but
so the camera goes in close as Georgia Miansaro and Grace Cypher go across the line in first place. Second will be Eve Muir and Sophie Gerapetritis. Third, then Western Australian Rowing Club crew. Fourth, ANU Composite. Fifth will be Sydney Uni Composite. Sixth will be Team Hong Kong. And at the rear will be the crew from ANA. This open lightweight men's double scull well down the course, Chris.
Yeah, so in lane 4, we've got the Barwon composite of with Banks, Nick Ziegler from Banks, Thomas Hastings from Barwon, UTS Haberfield in lane 5, Sam Casey from Tasmanian University Boat Club, combining with Matisse Ferrer of UTS Haberfield there. Team Hong Kong in lane 6, Tik Lung Chung and Siu Wing Ho. And then Newcastle Grammar's Lucas Burton and Ronan Brown in lane 7, closest to the grandstand side of the course, but looking to be trailing the field just a little bit. It does look like it is Team Hong Kong.
Yes, it does.
Going to take their second national championship of the day. Took the under-23 lightweight women's double sculls, one of the last races before the conditions turned too sour to race.
Yep.
Earlier this afternoon. They lead by about 2 boat lengths from the crew on the far side of the course. The composite between Barwon and Banks rowing clubs. Tom Hastings, Barwon, Nick Ziegler of Banks.
As ANA just crosses the line in the previous race. But it is Tik Lun Chun and Siu Wing Ho from Team Hong Kong with half a dozen strokes left to go, and they'll win the second gold medal for Team Hong Kong at this Australian Rowing Championships. Across the line they go.
Victorians will come across for the silver medal. Nick Ziegler, Thomas Hastings of Banks and Barwon rowing clubs. Tom Hastings in the Penrith Cup. Nick Ziegler, the reserve for that crew for Victoria. The UTS Haberfield Composite with Tasmania University Boat Club. Matthijs Ferrer from UTS. Sam Casing from Tasmania University Boat Club across the line for the bronze medal. Just a couple lengths clear of the Newcastle Grammar School crew of Lucas Burton and Ronan Brown. Ladies and gentlemen, the presentation of medals for the under-23 lightweight men's coxless 4. Gold medalists and national champions for 2023, a composite of the Mercantile, Melbourne University and UTS Haberfield rowing clubs. Represented by Jordan Roberts, Jack Henderson, Damien Schroeder, and Benjamin Whitney. The crew was coached by Alistair Matthews and Elliot Shackloff-Bertinetti. Ladies and gentlemen, please join me in congratulating our 2023 Australian champions in the under-23 lightweight men's coxless 4. And after this one, we'll have a little bit of a change of commentary for the remainder of the day. Ray Ebbett's out for Richard Dorstein and Ben Homer in for myself. I'll hand it over quickly as our next race approaches.
Shuffling seats quickly. Thank you, Chris. This is the first repechage, the only repechage of the under-21 men's quadruple scull. 2 crews from Sydney Rowing Club, hence Chris McCarthy's excitement here, because they are looking to be pretty well placed to get through here to the final. At least one of the 2 crews. It's Sydney Rowing Club leading here on lane 7, the combination of Nicholas Whalen, Charlie Hine, Alec Hoskin and Gordon Applecrin. And the second qualifying spot looks to be a couple of lanes across with the UTS Haberfield composite crew racing on lane 4 of Hamish Nicol, Oscar Barigi, Hayden Mounter and Harry Birchmore. Those 2 crews through to the final from the one and only repechage of the under-21 men's at Quad Scull. 3rd place will also go to Sydney Rowing Club, just outside the 2 qualifying spots. And then we go across to Melbourne University, who'll finish in 4th place. And there should be a crew on the far side of the course, but it does not appear that they are in the race. So just 4 boats there, all across the line. Sydney Rowing Club, lane 7, and UTS Haberfield composite with Tasmania University, Sydney University and Mercantile. So a 4-club composite once again, finishing there in 2nd place, and they are through to the final.
So next up on the course, under-21 women's quad scull repechage number 1. And we've got Mercantile in lane 3, ANU Composite in 4, Griffith Uni Surfers Paradise Composite in 5, Melbourne Uni in 6, Sydney Uni in lane 7. Just the 1 repechage, Rich, and 2, actually I should say we've got 2 repechages. Top 2 going through to the final, the rest eliminated from this event.
Yeah, so 2 from each of these, thanks Ben, and there are 2 crews from 2 repechages to go through to complete the final field in the under-21 women's at Quad Scull. So a couple of crews already through from the heats that took place yesterday. Again, we may have 1 crew missing here. The race is certainly coming thick and fast here in the late afternoon as we get through this 14-race program to conclude a somewhat truncated 5th day of this regatta. But looks to be the crew there leading the race may well be the one from the Melbourne University Boat Club in lane 6. Well, beside them, Sydney Uni also there in lane 7, in fact, who are our leading crew. So it is the 2 crews on the close side of the course. Passing a bit of activity there in the boat park. Looks like some of the trailers already been packed up for the trip home. Mercantile there in 3rd place. And then more crew, which may well be that Griffith University composite combination, but only 2 will go through here, and it's certainly the crews on lane 7 and 6, so closest to the spectator side of the course and to the final 500 metres now of this race. And it's Lily Gavin, Stephanie Preller, Sophia Whiteman and Zoe Bond who lead this race for Sydney Uni. They are coached by Alfie Young. And Melbourne University still there in second place, and the second of the 2 qualifying spots, it seems, at least for now, with a bit of a margin back on the other 2 boats in the race. That is the crew on lane 6 with Mary O'Donnell, Chloe Amling, Tiffany Crossthwaite and Ellie McClure in second place there for Melbourne Uni. And still Mercantile in contention, I would think, out in the far side, but maybe a length or 2 away off the pace. And in the middle there, Griffith University Surfers Paradise composite crew, including members of Sydney Uni and also UTS Haberfield. That's Sarah Berrytree, Ellie Clifford, Tiffany Botha and Jazz Ingle. They're coached by Christopher Holliday, Alfie Young and Katie Healy. But it is pretty much a race in 2 here in the closing strokes of the first repechage of 2 of the under-21 women's quad scull, with Sydney University leading Melbourne University by just a little bit over a length, it would seem to be. Both set to go through fairly comfortably into the final tomorrow of the under-21 women's quad scull. And it does look like they will finish in what we're now calling up the page order across the course. Sydney Uni by just a bit over a length from Melbourne Uni. Griffith University Surfers Paradise still there in 3rd place, and no change likely over the closing strokes of this race. So Sydney University will go through in 1st place to the final of the under-21 women's quad scull. 2nd place about a length and a 1/3 further back goes to the crew from Melbourne University. 3rd will be Griffith University Surfers Paradise composite crew. And 4th then, the combination from Mercantile on the far side of the course. So no appearance there from lane 4, which was the ANU, Mersey and Penrith composite crew. Well, having said that, there is one crew now making its way down the course, so it may well be that's one of our missing crews from these couple of earlier races.
So confirmation there, unofficially, Sydney Uni through in repechage 1 of the under-21 women's quad scull in 7:47.26, joined by Melbourne Uni in that final. Ladies and gentlemen, the presentation of medals for the open lightweight women's double scull. The medals will be presented by retired Brigadier Alison Cray, AM, CSC, board member of Rowing Australia and Paralympics Australia. 3rd place and bronze medalists from West Australian Rowing Club, Susanna Gravestock and Ruth Morris, coached by Stefano Belosso. Second place and silver medalists from ANU and Huon, supported by the Tasmanian Institute of Sport, Eve Muir and Sophie Gerapetridis, coached by John Dreesen and Nigel Harding. Gold medalists and Australian champions for 2023 from Sydney and Sydney University, supported by NSwiss, Georgia Miansauro and Grace Cypher, coached by Thomas Lorich, Lachlan Carter. Please congratulate our 2023 Australian champions and medalists in the lightweight women's double scull.
Congratulations to our medalists there, and just seeing the crew cross the line here at the finish is the ANU Mersey Penrith composite from that first repechage of the under-21 women's quad scull. Unfortunately, it looks like an equipment issue in that boat, so not able to compete in that first repechage of the under-21 women's quad scull, but they do now complete the course and at least officially finished in 5th place. So we turn instead to the second repechage of the under-21 women's quad scull, which is already well advanced, around about halfway down the 2,000 metre course. And we're looking here for a field of 6 boats. And all are definitely present at this stage of proceedings. All fielders Rockhampton Fitzroy in lane 2, Banks Rowing Club in 3, North-Esk Mersey Composite lane 4, Pine Rivers Griffith University Surfers Paradise Adelaide, and UTS Haberfield Composite in lane 6, a 5-club composite crew, would you believe, in a quad scull, which is creative. University of Queensland lane 6, and the West Australian and Fremantle Rowing Clubs racing in lane 7.
I thought you were going to bring out the Ray Abbott line there if you got 5 different crews in the boat, and the winner is?
The winner is Telstra.
Optus. I was just going to change it to Optus. We're giving Telstra too many plugs.
At least he didn't say Telecom, which I thought was going to come out at some point, but we've got the correct name there anyway. But a good race in the top 3 boats, at least across the course here, and that 5-club composite crew, obviously including the Cox as well, as Amelia Cooper of UTS, Georgina Tager of Adelaide, Olivia Cook of Griffith University Surfers Paradise, Ella Smith from Pine Rivers. And as this actually is the Coxless event, I'm not sure how they've squeezed all those crews in, but anyway, it is West Australian Rowing Club of Fremantle who lead here, the composite crew in lane 7. Aquila Ambrosino, Holly Cannon, Charlotte Broad, Tanika Webb, coached by Stefano Belosso on lane 7, and that Pine Rivers composite crew just behind them in second place. They are currently in the qualifying spots, about 4 2/3 of a second back to the Tasmanian composite crew on lane 4. Amy Florence, Catherine Greenhill, Ella Spalding and Morgan Brown from the North-Esk and Mersey Rowing Club. So both Launceston and Devonport in that boat, coached by David Tippett and Trevor Barrett. But they would be in 3rd place. Yes, a bit of interesting steering. Spies on the balcony providing feedback to some of these crews and these Cox's quad sculls. They are spreading far and wide across the course here, looking possibly for the calmer water on either side. I'm not quite sure what's going on there, but it's the leading 2 still unchanged. The crew from West Australian and Fremantle Rowing Clubs, and the Pine Rivers composite lane 5 maybe making a late charge here to try and reel in our race leaders. Both look set to go through fairly comfortably into the final of the under-21 women's quad scull. That race will take place on tomorrow's program, but a good finish certainly from that 4-club composite. Pine Rivers, Griffith University, Surfers Paradise, Adelaide and UTS Haberfield making up some ground late on the West Australian and Fremantle Rowing Clubs as they over the shadow, the reflection of the sun at the end of the course. Now emerge almost locked together, but it will still be the crew on the judges' tower side of the course with about 1/3 of a length lead who will go through and take out the win. So the West Australian Rowing Club and Fremantle Rowing Club's composite crew there, lane 7 through to the final of the under-21 women's quad scull, and they'll be joined by the Pine Rivers composite crew racing on lane 5. Then over in 3rd place, it is the Tasmanian combination, I believe, lane 4 there. North-Esk and Mersey will finish in 3rd place. 4th will go to the University of Queensland in lane 6. And 2 crews still to come home, and they're fairly spread out. It will be the always distinctive colours of the Banks Rowing Club. They're crossing in 5th place, and 6th will go to Rockhampton Fitzroy.
Ladies and gentlemen, the presentation of medals for the Open Lightweight Men's Double Scull. The medals will be presented by Brian Weir, board member of Rowing Australia. Third place and bronze medalists from UTS Haberfield and Tasmania University, Sam Casey and Matthias Ferrer, coached by Elliot Jacques Bertonetti. Second place and silver medalists from Barwon Rowing Club and Banks, Nick Ziggiter and Thomas Hastings, coached by Michael Cushion and Brendan Scott. and your gold medalists and Australian champions for 2023. Representing Team Hong Kong, Tik Lun Chan and Siu Wing Ho. Please congratulate our 2023 Australian champions and medalists in the lightweight men's double scull. Okay, so we're going to round out this day 5. It feels like, here's a reference for you, Richard. It feels like a day of cricket where you've had a rain delay. Yes. You've been hanging around all day, or you've been going off somewhere else, and now you're back, ready to go for the last bit of the day's play here on day 5 of the Australian Rowing Championships. And just before we go through this club men's double field, the Pine Rivers composite crew that we saw coming through in the under-21 women's quad just before, Ray Ebbett was on the edge of the balcony, and he was beaming. He looked like a proud father. He was beaming. You should have seen his face.
Life member of the Pine Rivers Club is required to act in that way when they row past, but it was great to see their results at the Nationals over the last couple of years especially. But you're right about your cricket analogy too, Ben, because a bit like a cricket test match sometimes. Today, if you were watching on the live stream and you switched off for an hour or two and you came back on, nothing would have changed, because there was about 4 hours while we sat here chatting amongst ourselves.
Well, exactly. And on that, we did see a number of messages on social media asking, bring back the live stream. I'm telling you, you did not want to hear what we were talking about. There was all kinds of weird and wonderful things. Some of it you couldn't play on a live stream. So
great shots too of wind blowing across the course. So yes, it was an interesting afternoon. It's been a long day, but not as full a day in terms of racing as we'd expected. And there will obviously be some tweaking to the program for at least tomorrow. Information will come out as soon as possible, the draw for tomorrow's racing. But we have a few races to go to conclude today still, Ben, and you'll be watching these next races fairly closely, given that your combination's already qualified for the final, or the semi-finals, I should say, of the club men's double scull. So you'll have a close look at your potential opposition here in this race.
I'm not going to say anything that's going to be offensive at all. I'm going to let you do all the race commentary. I'll just read the list, Richard, and then you do the rest from there, because I don't want to give anyone any extra motivation. So repechage 1 of the club men's double. So the first 3 go through to the semi-finals. The bottom 2 in this first race eliminated. So in lane 2 from Swan River, Benjamin Sutherland and William Joseph Maharich, coached by David Maharich. In lane 4, Pine Rivers, Henry Borger and Michael Hart, coached by Catherine Borger and Alan Borger. In 5, Swan River, Ryan Povey and James Young, coached by Mark Beer. In 6, Uni of WA, Isaac Hamilton and Arden Den Ouden, coached by George White. And Heinrich Venschke and Kane Bullock in lane 7 from Banks, coached by Brendan Scott. So this is this first repechage, which is going to get underway. And we do have Pine Rivers in this one, so Ray Ebbett is not going anywhere. He's going to get himself back out on the balcony.
He's going up one level.
Going up the top, so keep an eye out for him up the top. He's going to wave that scarf around, hold that life membership up, and get these Pine Rivers boys through to the semi-final.
If you're watching on the live stream, of course, because the camera's on the far side of the course at this year's regatta from our commentary spot and most of the spectators here, you do get a great shot of the finish tower in the concluding strokes of the race. So watch out for the man in green up there on the top level, watching as these crews go past. But there are 2 repechage in total of the club men's double scull. And the top 3 from each will qualify through to the semi-finals tomorrow. Around about 1 o'clock or so, these semis will take place, at least on the current schedule. But like I said, there will be there will definitely be some tweaking of tomorrow's program given the extra races we need to get through due to that 4 or so hour wind delay today, which was then followed by a brief traffic delay as a few of the crews had to rush back here to the course with an hour or so's notice, and did cause a further 15-minute postponement to racing. But we're underway here in the first repechage of the club men's double scull. As Ben said, we'll scratch that combination there from the West Australian Rowing Club. But 5 crews remain here, looking for 3 spots through to the semi-finals of the club men's double scull. So Swan River closest to the camera there, that vacant lane alongside them. And Pine Rivers in lane 4 have got a pretty decent start, certainly pulling away from Swan River Rowing Club in lane 5. So Swan River with 2 crews in this race. University of Western Australia lane 6 and the Banks Rowing Club in lane 7. I guess it's no surprise here at these national championships in Western Australia for the first time in 11 years. We are seeing a strong representation from the West Australian clubs, especially in these club events. So Swan River and Swan River with 2 crews in the race, and University of Western Australia as well. We did have the West Australian Rowing Club entered, but they have been scratched from the race, and a couple more West Australian crews to come in the repechages to follow. Certainly, clearly much better conditions there on the course now than we saw 4 or so hours ago, or about 5 hours ago it was, when we had to stop racing, as those lightweight double sculls really struggled on their way down the course. But wind is still there, but it's abated at least enough to allow racing to safely continue, particularly for the bigger boats and the more experienced crews, such as here in the club men's double scull. It looks to be Pine Rivers and Banks, so I would think the likely top 2 here, as they're soon to head through the 500-metre mark in this opening repechage of the club men's double scull. And it is the fairly experienced combination from the Banks Rowing Club of Melbourne, who are the first crew there through the timing point at 500 metres. University of Western Australia, in fact, is narrowly second ahead then of Pine Rivers 3rd, and 4th in between them. So it's the first of those 2 crews from the Swan River Rowing Club. Ahead of the crew then still to go through, in fact, closest to the camera. So quite a gap back between 4th and 5th spot with that lane 2 crew just appearing in shot there from Swan River. But Banks it is, Heinrich Venske and Kane Bullock, coached by Brendan Scott. The Banks Rowing Club, who trained on the Yarra River in Melbourne, a fairly experienced double scull combination. They've competed at least for a couple of years, a number of regattas around Victoria. And then in second place for the University of Western Australia, lane 6, Isaac Hamilton and Aaron Danuden there. They are coached by George White. And Pine Rivers at this stage in the 3rd and final qualifying spot. That's Henry Borgia and Michael Hart, who are coached by Catherine Borgia and Alan Borgia.
Well, they're only 2 seconds further back at that first timing check, but we do know it's 500 metres in. So it's going to be interesting to see whether the Pine Rivers combination are able to pull back here on the 2 crews leading, who are in those preferred lanes, 6 and 7. The crews who finished higher up in those heats to be able to earn 6 and 7 in the repechage. And they're looking good, aren't they, out in front? Yeah, Banks combo.
Certainly rowing well. Like I said, they do have rowed together a fair while. These 2 have also competed in a bit of coastal rowing as well, have Venske and Bullock of Banks, and they did look to be clearing out a bit on the other rails. That there is the University of Western Australia Boat Club in lane 6, Isaac Hamilton and Aaron Danuden, who are in second place. It's a pretty clear second place, but a margin back to Banks, certainly extending out now to what I suspect to be some 8 or 9 or 10 seconds, well 7.44 in fact, but getting out to close to a 3 boat length lead over the University of Western Australia in second place. And then becoming a pretty good battle there, Ben, between Pine Rivers and Swan River. Just a quarter of a second between them with 1,000 metres to row. Pine Rivers narrowly 3rd But Swan River pushing there on lane 5.
Well, who is it? Who can claim this third and final spot in the semi-final? And that actually just confused me for a second, because we've been seeing so often top 2 go through to the semi-final, but it's actually top 3 in this. So 3 out of 5. You got better odds in this one with that scratching from WA Rowing Club. So this is going to be a great finish. Can the local boys get themselves through to the semi-final, or will Pine Rivers do it for Ray Evatt, who's still up here punching the air, trying to get them home with about 1,000 metres to go?
I think he's actually watching the races on his phone, but he'll pay attention as they get closer down into the concluding stages of this race. But this starting to form for tomorrow. Yeah, the championships, day 1 tomorrow, of course, at Royal Randwick, and it'll start bright and early for us here in the West. Everything's 3 hours earlier. It takes some adjustment, I must say. I got home back to the hotel at least late, at about 7 p.m. yesterday when racing finally finished here, and the Brisbane Lions match had almost finished. So it does take some adjusting to life in the West, and the races will begin bright and early on Saturday for those who are so inclined. But Banks certainly looking very comfortable out in front in Heinrich Fenske and Kane Bullock, who I suspect will soon want to start to conserve some energy for the semi-finals to come, with a few of their opponents having their feet up, resting for today, or in case of Ben Homer, still exercising with his mouth at least, but otherwise preparing for the race to come in the semi-finals tomorrow. Some pretty hard-fought races, of course, in these club races. They've only been in the Nationals program for a few years now, but they've certainly grown in popularity over the last few regattas, and it is good to see pretty strong fields here, especially in this double scull event with, I think, 4 or 5 heats required yesterday, and then through to this round of 2 repêchages, obviously 2 semi-finals to follow before the final on the latest stage of Sunday morning's program. And Heinrich Fenske and Kane Bullock looked to pretty comfortably qualify here, clear by about 3 lengths it would be from the University of Western Australia in second place. The interest, but is in third and fourth. And I think that Swan River have now moved into a clear third spot there. Ryan Povey and James Young, who are coached by Mark Beer, who is the head coach at the Swan River Rowing Club. Swan River with 2 combinations in this race. Also Benjamin Sutherland and William Joseph Mohorik over on lane 2, who sit in 5th place. And the other crew, of course, we mentioned Pine Rivers, Henry Borger and Michael Hart. But after being in the top 3 for the first 12.50 or so, have now, it seems, dropped back into 4th position. And unlikely to go through at this stage, barring something very unforeseen over the concluding strokes of this race. So the first repechage of 2 in the club men's double scull is approaching its conclusion, and it's the Banks combination from Melbourne, Heinrich Fenske and Kane Bullock, coached by Brendan Scott, who continue to lead. I think that lead's been narrowed a little over the last few hundred metres of this race, and Banks remain very comfortably in front. Of course, the semi-final to come tomorrow now becomes their focus. The margin closing down beyond about 2 lengths, in fact, with the University of Western Australia certainly finishing with a bit more speed than the Banks crew. But Banks have done exactly what they needed to do. Got out hard, got in front, led the race all the way, and they'll go across by 1.5 lengths to take out the first repechage of the club men's double scull and go through to the semi-finals tomorrow, along with the University of Western Australia in second place. And third then, it will be Swan River in lane 5, the last of the qualifying spots, just ahead by about 2 lengths it would be from Pine Rivers in 4th place, and 5th back over on the far side of the course. Still rowing along the car park side there is the second of the combinations that from Swan River in lane 2, who will also be eliminated from the event. So 4 crews across the line, and the 5th soon to follow in the first repechage of the club men's double scull.
So just confirming, Banks, University of WA, Swan River, all through. Banks in that unofficial time, 7:36.09. Pine Rivers and Swan River eliminated now from the club men's double. Repechage 2, we've also got a scratching from WA Rowing Club, unfortunately. So there's just 5 in this again, top 3 going through. So in lane 2, Lachlan Dunn and Callum Dunn, coached by Mark Featherstone from St George Rowing Club. Uni of WA in 3, Ethan Bromley and Oliver Cliff, coached by George White. A&A in lane 4, Liam Squires Welsh and Mark Easterbrook, coached by Graham Scattergood. In 6, Uni of Queensland's Mac Russell and Callum Breitsk, coached by Michael Russell and Randall Martin. And then in 7, Griffith Uni Surfers Paradise, Anthony Cook and Charles Clark, coached by Christopher Holliday and Duncan Free. So 3 out of 5 going through to the semi-finals tomorrow. And what they'll be relieved about is conditions today. I was checking yesterday, Rich. Conditions for the club men's double were the worst of basically the entire day. I was checking the wind speed. It peaked right as the club men's double started yesterday about 3 o'clock. So they're appreciating the conditions being slightly, and I say slightly better.
Yeah, they'll certainly appreciate the delay, I think, rather than racing 3 or 4 hours ago when it would have been a lot more challenging out there. But yeah, that is remarkable to think they may have had 2 races in very serious wind conditions. But yeah, this is certainly, it's nice and calm here in the commentary block, as we've said a few times, but it is much better outside than it has been. There is still quite a breeze, quite a cold breeze blowing along the course, but much fairer conditions than we saw in around midday when things became very, very tricky indeed. It looks to be the Queenslanders in this race on the what is our side of the course, farthest away from the camera there, but the red colours of the Griffith University Surfers Paradise Rowing Club, Anthony Cook and Charles Clark there, coached by Christopher Holliday and Duncan Free. And in second place behind them would have been the University of Queensland, Mac Russell and Callum Breitsky, coached by Michael Russell and Randall Martin. They are certainly our clear top 2. And then that vacant lane again, that's scratching from the West Australian Rowing Club. In fact, they've scratched both of their doubles from this event, possibly a scheduling issue there as far as the West Australian Rowing Club was concerned. But that does give a chance to another crew, certainly, to progress. A&A from here in Perth as well, Liam Squires-Welsh and Mark Easterbrook rowing in the stripes, the vertical stripes in lane 4. University of Western Australia in lane 3. And St George Rowing Club from Sydney racing in lane 2. So 2 Queensland combinations, then 2 from Western Australia and 1 from New South Wales as they progress through into the final 500 metres now of the second of 2 repêchages in the club men's double scull. It continues certainly to be the 2 combinations from Queensland who lead, both from South East Queensland. Griffith University Surfers Paradise Rowing Club, of course, on the Gold Coast. And then the University of Queensland Boat Club from Brisbane, who would be in a clear second spot as we see now the University Surfers Paradise combination go through with a 2-length lead. 4.34 seconds, so just under 2 lengths in fact, but those 2 crews from Queensland certainly well clear of the rest of the course. I'm slightly concerned about that trailer being loaded behind our camera. Those boats don't quite look to be packed as they should be. Maybe that's to avoid to do with the height of the towing vehicle.
A bit of an angle there, but good to see that some of the boats just able to free up a bit more space in the boat park for the weekend. And of course, it's going to be hectic on Sunday Arbor, so if we can get rid of a few of the boats early, it's going to make it a lot easier.
Yes,
for the departure, isn't it?
Exactly. A number of clubs will be strategically packing already, with a few boats probably no longer required to avoid that last-minute panic on Sunday. A number of trailers, of course, will be driving out of here on Sunday afternoon. I suspect not long after 3:30 for the drive back across the Nullarbor. But, of course, plenty of racing, 2 big days. An even bigger day, of course, coming tomorrow now, with a few races required to be rescheduled from today. And Sunday, always a fantastic day to conclude this regatta. And here in the 3rd and final qualifying spot, we should also point out, is the University of Western Australia, Ethan Bromley and Oliver Cliff, who were sitting 3rd ahead of the A&A combination, Liam Squires-Welsh and Mark Easterbrook. So the battle of the West Australians is for the last of the qualifying spots, and it's becoming interesting too between our 2 Queensland combinations out in front, lane 7 and 6. Griffith University Surfers Paradise in the red colours, they're closest to the finish tower side of the course, and have been closed down rapidly by a strong finish from the University of Queensland in lane 6. Both combinations certainly go through the repêchages, but of course lanes may well be important tomorrow given the weather conditions and how they may play out. So the University of Queensland looking to steal 1 spot here late on Griffith University Surfers Paradise with about 50 metres to go to the finish line. UQ certainly closing on Griffith Uni. There's still 3 or 4 strokes to go. They're getting closer and closer. The crew from the University of Queensland have snuck their boat in front on the second last stroke and will take the win in the second repêchage of the club men's double scull. A determined finish there from Mac Russell and Callum Breitsky means they are the winners of the second repêchage in the club men's double scull. Second place goes to Griffith University Surfers Paradise, Anthony Cook and Charles Clark. And the all-important third spot goes to that distinctive boat from the University of Western Australia Boat Club with the green and gold bow and stern section. They'll race again also in the semi-finals of the Club Men's Double Scull tomorrow, just ahead of the ANA Club from Perth. They'll finish in 4th place, and 5th will be St George from Sydney with a couple of strokes to go to complete the course.
So just confirming, Uni of Queensland through in 7:46.18, Griffith Uni Surfers Paradise, and Uni of WA joining them in the semi-finals tomorrow of the Club Men's Double. Now we're moving to the Club Women's Double, and these are the last 2 races of the day. So the penultimate race here, and we can rule out Caulfield Grammar, they are scratched, and we can also rule out Uni of Queensland, which means that only 2 going through here from 3. So only 1 boat's going to miss out. And you can see at the back of the field, it looks like Fremantle, Lara Connolly and Madison Naylor are in that position. Peter Holiday, their coach. Out in front though, WA Rowing Club. We had a couple of scratchings in the Club Men's Double, but they're leading here the Club Women's Double Scull. First repechage, Maddie Ford and Sophie Gillies, coached by Stefano Belosso. And they are through the 1,000 metre timing check at 4:23.74. ANA comfortably in second. That's Natalie Gray and Nadia Gardner, coached by Graham Scattergood. Fremantle back in third. Oh, there's an issue for ANA. They do have a lot of water between themselves and the crew in third, but they're having some massive issues here. The boat is rocking and rolling.
Belying our comments been about the improving conditions on the course, but it does become a bit self-perpetuating there when they catch a crab or liberate a lobster or whatever we're supposed to say in this new and brave, scary world in which we live, but they look to have recovered now after a few messy strokes.
That's the line of the day. Where's Rupert Guinness? Get that one on the rowing wrap. Liberate a lobster. That's got to be in today. We saw Ray make it yesterday with his hard quiz.
Thanks for playing hard. Now, I do just have a bit of information from our regatta organisers, which I'll quickly run through here, Ben, as this race continues, but I've been advised that the schedule for tomorrow is obviously still being worked on. It will be released later on this evening as soon as possible, but it may take at least a couple of hours for that to be finalised. But the message for all crews is that racing is currently planned to commence at 8 a.m. tomorrow. So 8 a.m. is likely to be the first race within a few minutes at least, so that much I can confirm. There will be not any substantial racing before 8 a.m. But bear in mind there's a lot of moving parts for our regatta organisers to fit into tomorrow's schedule. So they are currently working on the revised schedule for tomorrow. That will be released on the regatta website as soon as it's available, but it is anticipated that will be later on tonight. So please don't bombard them with questions or sit there hitting refresh as soon as you leave here today. That will obviously be made available as soon as humanly possible, but there is a lot of racing to squeeze in to tomorrow. But the key message is that the first race will be at or very close to 8 a.m. and please check the website later this evening for the full draw.
I'd advise go back, have a warm shower, warm up. It's been a cold day. Put your feet up, have a bit to eat, then go and check. And hopefully it'll be up by then. That's my advice.
You're much more pure than me, but I'd say go home, have a refreshing drink and recover from the day. And then, yes, once you've recovered fully, check the website. But clearly there's a lot to be organised now with the compressed schedule for tomorrow, but it will begin at around about 8 a.m. So the West Australian Rowing Club leading here in the Club Women's Double Scull, first of 3 repechages. We are into the, in fact, first of 2 repechages. So these are the last 2 races of the day, which means this is the penultimate event. So the West Australian Rowing Club, it is Maddie Ford and Sophie Gillies in lane 7 with Stefano Belosso, the coach. It is just the first two here through, Ben, so I assume there were 3 repechage, but there are just 2, and 2 from each will go through.
I was going to ask your thoughts. What are your thoughts on 3 repechages? Is that in your 3 semi-finals?
No, you
can deal with
absolutely happy with 3 repechages. It's only 3 semi-finals that don't make sense.
What about 4 semi-finals?
Well, that's just off the scale. Off the scale. That'd be quarterfinals, wouldn't it?
Oh, well, there is. I saw on the draw there are 4 semi-finals for something.
Yeah, no, my head hurt when I saw that, but we'll deal with that issue later on. Maybe in the tweaking of tomorrow's program, we might be able to rationalise some of that. But the West Australian Rowing Club very comfortably clear here, and we do just have a field of 3, it looks like, as well. The second last race nearing its conclusion, and the last race on its way down the course. So a couple of scratchings in this event, it does appear, as Ben would have said. I was distracted slightly with getting that message from our organisers, which means 3 boats and only 2 will go through, 1 will miss out, and certainly the West Australian Rowing Club will take the win here. Maddie Ford and Sophie Gillies, coached by Stefano Belosso. And then across to the other side of the course, it will be ANA in second place, Natalie Gray and Nadja Gardner. So the all West Australian battle, as it turns out in the end, goes the way initially of the West Australian Rowing Club, celebrating a victory here on their home course. They seem happy with that result. The crew there in lane 7 through to tomorrow's semi-finals of the club women's double scull. And second place will be the combination from the ANA club. Over in lane 4, they'll be across in second place. Colours looking very similar to that of the UTS Club of Sydney. And the blades look like BBC blades, just to really confuse things. But it's definitely the ANA club who will come across in second place. They also are through to the semi-finals of the club women's double scull, and third place will go the way of the Fremantle combination, Lara Connolly and Madison Naylor, coached by Peter Holiday.
So just confirming those 2 through to the semi-final of the club women's double. WA Rowing Club, Maddie Ford, Sophie Gillies, coached by Stefano Belosso, and Natalie Gray and Nadia Gardner, coached by Graham Scattergood from ANA. That time for WA Rowing Club, 8:56.79. Fremantle eliminated Lara Connolly and Madison Naylor, coached by Peter Holiday. Alrighty, we are here. I know we didn't think we'd get here about 5 hours ago, but we are here. We have a final race of the day, and it is the club women's double scull, the second repechage in lane 3. University of WA, Alice Gralton and Isabella Marchetti. In lane 4, Canberra Girls Grammar, Samantha Burns and Caitlin Natty, coached by Nigel Miller. In 5, University of WA, Hayley Rowe and Izzy Emery. In lane 6, Ballarat City, T. Johns and Tia Broad, coached by Grant McKechnie. And in lane 7, Swan River, Isabella Edinger and Stephanie Potma, coached by Mark Beer. And top 2 going through here. And it looks to be a real battle on the hands of Swan River on that far side, who might have it a little bit difficult over this last 500 metres. But as you can see here at the 1,500 metre timing point going through
Canberra
there.
Girls Grammar, it should be out in front there, Ben. They were the leaders at the halfway mark, and they are indeed still at 1,500 as well. And it's a pretty handy lead now over Swan River in lane 7. So Samantha Burns and Caitlin Natty with the lead for Canberra Girls Grammar, Isabella Edinger and Stephanie Potma for Swan River. And it is just 2 to go through, so third place for University of Western Australia, 4th for Ballarat City. The 2 tiers, of course, that we've seen racing a few times over the course of this regatta. And then University of Western Australia there in 5th spot, but just 2 to go through, and it's Canberra Girls Grammar leading it from the Swan River Rowing Club.
Can they pull this back, University of WA? It was about 2 seconds, the gap back to Swan River in second. Swan River do have that lane 7, which is better water, but in the last 500, it really evens up. It's really only that first part of the race. So this is going to be pretty even, what they've got to deal with over this last 300 metres.
Yeah, and almost serene conditions here as you look out the window at the power lines, the sun setting in the background, the 5 boats racing towards the finish line here in the second repechage of the club women's double scull on the final day of a very interesting day 5 of the Australian Rowing Championships for 2023. But our top 2 still do look comfortably clear, as they've been for most of the way down the course here. Samantha Burns and Caitlin Natty from the Canberra Girls Grammar School in the Australian Capital Territory, coached by Nigel Miller. And the Swan River Rowing Club in second place, Isabella Edinger and Stephanie Potma. University of Western Australia, certainly are mounting a late charge here as we expected they would. It's all or nothing racing here in this repechage. They're well clear of Ballarat City and University of Western Australia lane 3, but the crew there in lane 5 trying to sneak up into a top 2 spot. I suspect that Swan River have seen them coming in lane 7 and should be able to hold on from there with a bit over a boat length lead still in second place. But it is Canberra Girls Grammar School over on lane 4 on the far side of the Champion Lakes Regatta Centre, with 5 or 6 strokes to go to complete the day's race and confirm their spot in the semi-finals of the club women's double scull. They are cleared by just over a length from Swan River, who have indeed seen off the challenge, and it's Canberra Girls Grammar School who go across and take the win on lane 4. Second place goes to the crew from Swan River, about 2 lengths back in the end to the University of Western Australia in lane 5. Fourth place will go to Ballarat City on lane 6, and fifth then back over to the far side of the course, the second of 2 combinations from the University of Western Australia. The lane 3 crew will finish shortly to in 5th spot, and they will be eliminated from the event. But going through to the semi-finals, Canberra Girls Grammar School and Swan River, as the sun, Ben, is just about to set over the Champion Lakes Regatta Centre. Another late finish here on day 5.
Yes, and it was great just to squeeze in those last few races, just to ease the pressure over the last couple of days. And as you can see there, 7 days of live streaming, and we're 5 days down. Can't you wait for the last 2? The weekend is just about to be upon us, and we cannot wait to bring it all to you right here at the Australian Rowing Championships at Champion Lakes.
It's great to know people are watching the live stream. About 100,000 plus hits already over the first 4 days of this regatta. And from the number of messages we received in the middle of the day when we were off air and there was no racing from those who wanted to see the racing, there's certainly great demand out there for the live rowing action. So we can absolutely assure you we'll be back tomorrow. As mentioned just before, that first race is scheduled to take place at or around 8 a.m. The full schedule will be available as soon as possible tonight, but please give our hard-working regatta organisers a couple of hours to finalise the details for tomorrow's racing, and that schedule for tomorrow will be up as soon as is humanly possible. But otherwise, we will resume here around about 8 a.m. tomorrow.
Well, Rich, before we go, what was your highlight of today? Because we always love to touch on our highlights, and us commentators forget very easily.
We do.
You're so in the moment with the race you're calling. As soon as that one's there, it goes in one ear, out the other. So can you pick a highlight?
Doesn't go, the beginning of the day seemed a long way away. We had some great finals earlier in today, a number of our Olympians on the course. But for me, those semi-finals of the under-19 Women's 8 we saw just after the long adjournment were some great races too, with St Catharines and Melbourne getting a win, and St Catharines and Sydney being narrowly beaten in the closing strokes. But there are 4 boats within about a second in the under-19 Women's 8 who will race the final tomorrow. That will be a race to watch out for.
Well, I must say I did enjoy the Open Men's Double, the big win to Cormac Kennedy Leverett and Caleb Antle. That was a great race. They performed really well. What was it, about 16 seconds they won by in the end? So that was impressive.
Yep, absolutely. Caleb Antle adding to his single scull gold medal, so a very successful couple of days for him as well.
Alrighty, well, that wraps it up for day 5 of the Australian Rowing Championships. Thanks for your company, Rich. You can go home and have a nice warm shower, enjoy a good feed.
And you can prepare for your race tomorrow, Ben. We'll be back to watch you here on day 6. And a reminder to all to check that schedule as soon as it comes out. We will announce the time of Ben's race, so you can all pay careful attention. But otherwise, we'll see you tomorrow morning from around about 8 o'clock for the first race on day 6 of the 2023 Australian Rowing Championships.